Millionaire dad discovers incredible secret as his 6-year-old daughter Yadi's something unexpected. Jason was living the dream. With his sleek cars parked in the driveway of his sprawling home and catered meals from the finest restaurants, he had built a life that many only dared to envision. But none of it mattered as much as the sound of his daughter Lily's laughter. At just 6, she had a way of lighting up every room and every moment they shared. This Saturday, their backyard was their little paradise, and today was supposed to be just another blissful day of fun. While Jason spread out the gourmet picnic, filled with artisan cheeses and artisanal sandwiches, Lily danced through the wildflowers, her bright dress twirling like a flower in the wind. She picked dandelions, those little yellow suns laughing with pure delight. When she returned, grinning ear to ear with dandelion greens stuffed in her mouth, Jason couldn't help but burst out laughing. "What are you eating, sweetheart?" he asked, genuinely puzzled. "Daddy, they're yummy," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling as if they'd discovered treasure. That moment hit hard, opening a floodgate of memories from his simpler upbringing. Life had been different back then. Every meal cherished, every dollar hard-earned. His heart swelled with pride. Wasn't it beautiful how a child could find joy in the simplest things? But then the shadows started to gather, the laughter outside interrupted by whispers of trouble. Jason heard about the Johnsons next door, facing eviction and financial ruin. It tightened his chest, a stark reminder that wealth often felt like a distant planet. Inspired by Lily's innocent joy, Jason felt a pull to help. What if we organized a fundraiser? He thought, envisioning a gathering filled with generosity and community spirit. He knew his affluent neighbors had the means to make a difference. Yet as he approached them about this idea, he felt the skepticism radiating from their eyes. Does he really understand? One whispered, "Can someone like him relate?" The doubts hung in the air thick like a summer storm, forcing Jason to confront an uncomfortable truth. Was he still connected to the very values and struggles that had shaped him? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As the day of the fundraiser approached, an unexpected weight settled on Jason's shoulders. He began to question whether he could bridge the gap, whether his wealth had built walls instead of bridges. But every time he looked at Lily radiating joy and her simple pleasures, he felt those walls shifting. The evening came with a mix of anticipation and tension. Neighbors gathered, a mosaic of faces reflecting both hope and hesitance. As their eyes darted from Jason to one another, unspoken concerns filled the air. Could he truly understand? Could he truly care? As those questions lingered, Jason stood at the center of it all, aware that he was on the edge of something monumental. Would he be able to unite a divided community? Or would he remain a distant millionaire, forever an outsider? Only time would tell as the evening danced on, filled with potential and uncertainty. The journey had just begun, and one question echoed louder than the rest. Would empathy rise above wealth, or would a wall remain firmly in place? Jason felt the weight of the moment. Neighborhood chatter buzzed around him like a swarm of bees, scattered and restless. He stood there, heart thumping, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. The backyard, which was usually filled with laughter and the smell of fresh grass, now felt heavy with expectation. As the sun dipped low, casting a golden hue over their gathering, he thought of the Johnsons. The enormity of their plight weighed on him. They were good people, struggling to keep their heads above water. He wanted to do something meaningful, something that mattered, yet doubt crept in. Would his neighbors even care?
"Hey, Dad.
Come join me." Lily's cheery voice broke through his anxiety. She was trying to gather the other kids for a game. Her innocence glimmered like a guiding light. He smiled at her, and in that moment, her joy became his focus. If only he could capture that spirit and share it with others without hesitation. He stepped forward, feeling a surge of determination. "Everyone!" Jason called out, his voice echoing across the yard. The music faded, and the whispering stopped. Faces turned towards him, a mix of curiosity and wariness etched across them. "I know we're all here to have a good time, but I feel we can do something more. The Johnsons need our help. They're facing some tough times, and this community can be stronger than our differences. Together, we can make a real impact." Silence filled the space as his words floated in the warm air. Was that acceptance he saw, or merely disbelief? The neighbors exchanged nervous glances, faces unsure. He could feel anxiety pinching his stomach. "I'm proposing we hold a fundraiser," he continued, trying to mask his own trepidation with passion. "Let us come together, enjoy good food, and raise money for the Johnsons. We can set up activities, get local businesses involved, maybe even have a bake sale. Any help, no matter how small, can mean the world." As he spoke, he saw a flicker of interest ignite in a few faces, though others remained skeptical. "Do you really think they'll appreciate our help?" Someone muttered. "What do they even want from us?" Jason's heart sank. Were they, too, caught in the tangled web of wealth and class? Were they conditioned to believe they had nothing in common with the people across the street? But just then, a familiar little voice chimed in. "I think it's a great idea, Daddy." Lily beamed, raising her tiny hands for attention. Everyone's eyes turned to her, and the tension ever so slowly began to dissolve. "What if we made it a picnic? People can bring a dish, and we can have fun together. We can play games," she exclaimed, bouncing on her feet, the dandelion greens still speckled around her mouth, a picture of untouched joy. Jason chuckled softly, grateful she could see the silver lining. The smile on his daughter's face sent ripples of warmth through the crowd. Slowly, people started to nod. They were beginning to feel the heart of her idea. As ideas began to spark among them, Jason took a breath, the tension in his shoulders lightening bit by bit. But could he truly rally everyone? Could empathy and community spirit win out that night? The question hung heavily as laughter and chatter began to swell once more. Just when Jason thought hope might be kindled, he noticed a familiar face lingering at the edge of the crowd, the unmistakable countenance of Mrs. Johnson herself. What had she heard? And would she accept their help, or would this opportunity bring more division instead? Jason's heart raced as Mrs. Johnson approached. Her usually bright face was clouded with shadows, a mixture of uncertainty and just a hint of pride. She wore her emotions like a heavy coat, and Jason felt the weight of it. "Mrs. Johnson," he began, swallowing the lump in his throat. Her gaze was steady yet soft, a mix of vulnerability and strength. He searched for the right words, but they felt tangled, trapped in the net of his own fears. "We were just talking about organizing a fundraiser to help you and your family." She hesitated, her brows furrowing slightly. "You really don't have to," she said gently, almost apologetically. "We manage. It's just a rough patch." Jason could see the conflict in her eyes. She wanted to be strong, to stand on her own, but the truth was heavy, and it pressed down on both of them. "But we want to help," he insisted. "This isn't just about charity. It's about community. We're all in this together. Your family means a lot to us." Lily tugged at Jason's shirt, her innocence shining through the tension. "We can make it fun. Games and smiling faces," she chimed in, her eyes sparkling like starlight. Mrs. Johnson took a deep breath. "It's kind of you, really, but it's hard to accept help." There was a fragile quality to her words, as if they might shatter upon contact. Jason nodded, understanding her struggle. "It's hard for all of us sometimes. But not asking for help is like standing in a rainstorm with an umbrella, refusing to open it." A small smile broke through Mrs. Johnson's uncertainty, just for a moment. "That's an odd way to put it. But maybe you're right." The crowd began to shift, a sound of low murmurs and hesitant laughter breaking the spell of silence. One neighbor, a jovial man in a faded baseball cap, spoke up. "I never thought I'd say this, but count me in for the barbecue drinks. And I'll bring my famous potato salad too. His face lit up, arms gesturing excitedly. Encouragement rippled through the gathering. One neighbor after another offered to contribute desserts, games for the kids, even a local band willing to play for free. Slowly, the air began to thrum with anticipation and hope. Mrs. Johnson's expression softened, a mix of relief and gratitude washing over her. "Thank you," she whispered, the words barely escaping her lips but packed with emotion. Suddenly, the laughter of children echoed again, cutting through the seriousness like a bright ray of sunlight. Jason glanced over at Lily, who had already rallied a group of kids to play tag, her laughter infectious. He let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Yet, as excitement swirled around him, a knot of uncertainty still clung to Jason's heart. What if things didn't go as planned? What if the fundraiser wasn't enough to truly make a difference? But as the night continued, so did hope, weaving its way through the gathering like a warm blanket. The questions about logistics began to fill the air, small ideas blossoming into larger ones, and laughter started to drown out doubt. "Would you be okay with this?" Jason finally asked Mrs. Johnson, his voice barely rising above the chatter. "We can make this happen, together." She placed a hand over her heart, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "If you all want to help this much, then yes. Let us do it." For the rest of the evening, Jason felt buoyed by their collective excitement. Maybe this was the start of something bigger. Maybe their small community really could come together to support one of their own. But as the sun faded further and night settled in, Jason caught a fleeting glimpse of Mrs. Johnson staring into the distance, as if searching for something within the shadows. He felt a pang of curiosity. What secrets lay buried beneath her brave facade? The question hung in the air like the first notes of a new melody waiting to unfold. Would this journey of hope reveal more than he expected? As the sun sank lower, casting shadows on the gathering, Jason's thoughts raced alongside the chatter around him. He caught Mrs. Johnson's gaze again, a flicker of something deeper buried behind her warm smile, a storm of thoughts swirling just beneath the surface. It was clear to him that there was more she wasn't saying. Lily pulled him back into the present, her tiny hand wrapping firmly around his finger. "Can I have another cupcake, Jason?" she pleaded, a hopeful sparkle in her big brown eyes. He laughed softly, nudged by her innocent joy. "Only if you promise not to eat them all by yourself." They wandered toward the table piled high with colorful treats. Even simple cupcakes had become treasures in this moment, gestures of community gathering to share smiles and hopes. As they enjoyed the treats, Jason surveyed the crowd. Neighbors who had once exchanged nothing more than pleasantries were now united, connected by a greater purpose. Stories of struggles emerged amid laughter while children dashed about, wearing faces smeared with frosting. For a fleeting moment, Jason felt his worries dissipate, replaced by the sweet taste of unity among friends. "The band is here," someone shouted, breaking through the jovial hum, sending a wave of excitement through the crowd. The sound of guitars and drum beats began to fill the air, blending seamlessly with the warmth of camaraderie. People clapped in anticipation, and Mrs. Johnson seemed momentarily transformed, casting aside the heavy coat of her worries, her laughter mingling with relief. Just as Jason took in the moment, a shadow fell over him. A tall figure stepped into his view, Kyle, the neighborhood skeptic, with his brow furrowed and arms crossed. He was known for his blunt critiques and for questioning everything. "You really think a barbecue is gonna fix anything?" Kyle asked, his voice low, skeptical. Jason's heart sank. "It's not just a barbecue. It's about showing we care. It's about community support." "I don't know," Kyle replied, a hint of doubt shadowing his features. "Sometimes it feels like throwing a Band-Aid on a wound that needs stitches." Frustration welled up in Jason, but then he thought about Mrs. Johnson and the community rallying behind her. "You might be right, but it's a start. And every start counts, doesn't it? We can't just sit back and wait for someone else to come along." Kyle's expression softened slightly, but Jason could tell the doubt was still there. It nagged at him, pushing at the corners of his optimistic heart. Suddenly, Mrs. Johnson approached them, catching the end of their exchange. "Kyle," she said gently, her eyes steady, "I appreciate your honesty. But sometimes, we need moments like this to remind us that we're not alone. Every small act of kindness counts." Her voice held a blend of gratitude and strength that made Jason feel proud. The crowd was buzzing with energy now as the band launched into a lively tune. Kids began to dance, twirling under the string lights, unaware of the debates woven through the adult conversations. It felt like magic, a refuge from the worries hidden in the world outside. But even as laughter rang around him, Jason couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper lurked beneath the surface. A question nagged at him. What would it take to really make a difference for Mrs. Johnson? Was a single barbecue enough, or were they all just delaying the inevitable? When he glanced at Mrs. Johnson, he noticed her watchful gaze. Her momentary peak of joy faded into something more pensive, a reminder that the shadows were never too far away. As the night wore on, thoughts circled in Jason's mind. How could he uncover what lay beneath that brave facade? How could he not just help her family, but truly understand her struggle? The melody filled the air, but it couldn't drown out his growing determination. He knew he had more to discover. He had a feeling that a deeper truth was waiting just beneath the surface. What would he uncover if he dug deeper into Mrs. Johnson's story? The music surged, pulling Jason further into the lively atmosphere. Laughter echoed as families danced under the twinkling lights, and for a moment, he let himself be swept away by the joy of it all. But the question still loomed large in his mind, casting a shadow he couldn't ignore. Lily, her cheeks flushed with excitement, was spinning around, giggling as she twirled with another child. Jason watched her for a few moments, a smile on his face. It was hard to reconcile these simple, beautiful moments with the heavy weight he sensed from Mrs. Johnson. He turned back, hoping to see her joy return, but instead found her standing alone, clasping her hands together, watching her son play with the other kids. A hint of worry creased her brow, making Jason's heart ache.
"Hey,"
he called, breaking through the sounds of the crowd. She turned to him, her smile faltering just for a second. "Hi, Jason," she replied, her voice light, but he could hear the underlying tremor. "Enjoying the party?" he asked, leaning against the picnic table. "It's lovely," she responded, shifting her gaze to the dancing children. "You really brought everyone together." But he hesitated. He didn't want to press, but he couldn't help it. "You've been so strong for everyone, but I can see it's not easy for you." For a moment, her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Some days are better than others," she admitted quietly. "But I'm grateful for moments like this. They help distract me, even if just for a little while." Jason caught the flicker of vulnerability in her gaze. "You don't have to shoulder everything alone. If there's something I can do, anything." Mrs. Johnson shook her head, but her smile was softer. "You're doing enough, Jason. This barbecue means more than you know." He nodded, not entirely satisfied. There was so much he wanted to say, but the music pulsed around them, drowning his words. Instead, he watched as a small group of children tumbled down in a flurry of giggles, sending a wave of laughter through the crowd. A moment later, Lily dashed over, sticky fingers reaching up for Jason. "Can I have a dance?" "Of course." His heart lightened as he took her hand, leading her into the throng of giggling kids. They twirled and spun under the warm glow of the lights, the worries of the world momentarily forgotten. As they danced, Jason held on to that feeling of joy, contrasting sharply with Mrs. Johnson's lingering shadows. After a few songs, he stepped back, panting slightly. "Jason!" Lily exclaimed, her small face alight with joy. "That was fun. Can we have cupcakes again now?" "Sure thing, cupcake." He chuckled, glancing back at Mrs. Johnson. But before he could acknowledge her again, he noticed Kyle standing off to the side, watching. That look of skepticism had returned, and Jason felt his heart sink. Maybe we should all just enjoy tonight. What good does speaking up do if people just want to eat cupcakes and dance? Kyle's voice cut through the music. Jason sighed and thought about Mrs. Johnson's brave face. "You don't see the bigger picture, Kyle. Sometimes it's about giving hope. Even a barbecue can be a first step. I bet it won't change anything long-term, Kyle replied, crossing his arms as if setting himself apart. Maybe not, Jason shot back, the resolve hardening in his voice, but it matters to people. It matters to Mrs. Johnson. Jason's gaze shifted to her, and he saw something shift in her expression, as though the weight he sensed shifted just a fraction. What if this night could spark something more? Could Jason find a way to inspire the community enough to break through their walls, to dive deeper and uncover Mrs. Johnson's true story? As he pondered the possibility, the music faded in the background, and his next move began to form. A sudden voice chimed in from the crowd, calling for more food and games, spiraling energies swirling back into action. But through it all, Jason held one thought close. He had to unravel Mrs. Johnson's secrets. What lay beneath her smile, and how could he help? Jason's mind began to race as new ideas took shape. Would he be brave enough to confront the truth when it emerged? The night wore on, and the atmosphere buzzed with laughter and chatter. The smell of grilled burgers wrapped around Jason, clinging to him like nostalgia. He glanced back at Lily, who was elbow-deep in a cupcake with frosting smeared across her cheeks. Her joy was infectious, and for a second, he felt the burdens around him lighten. But then he looked at Mrs. Johnson again, standing alone at the edge of the crowd, watching, hoping, maybe even yearning for a moment of relief. Jason's heart twisted. He couldn't shake the feeling that the evening couldn't merely be a distraction for her. It had to be a bridge to something more. He turned toward Kyle, who still loomed nearby, arms crossed defiantly.
Come on.
You can't just lean against that wall all night. Join us. Kyle rolled his eyes. Whatever. I just don't see the point. Jason pushed hard against the frustration building in him. The point is being here for each other, Kyle. For Mrs. Johnson. You think she wants to just clown around?
No.
She needs us, our support. His words surprised even him, the emotional intensity palpable. And yet, Kyle seemed unmoved, dismissive. Yeah, well, good luck with that. With a sigh, Jason took a step back, needing space to think. He looked out over the crowd, the chatter swirling around him, and his gaze landed on Mrs. Johnson once more. She was watching Lily with a mixture of sadness and warmth, her fingers wrapped tightly around her wrists, as if holding herself together. Okay, Jason, he whispered to himself, feeling a surge of determination. He made his way through the dancing throng, ignoring the thumping music, as each step felt heavier with purpose. Time to talk to her. He reached Mrs. Johnson just as Lily zipped past them to grab another cupcake. Jason could see the love in the woman's eyes, but the worry still lingered like a storm cloud. Mrs. Johnson, he said gently, can we talk? Her brow relaxed a fraction, but he could still see the hesitation. Is everything all right, Jason? Actually, no. I'm worried about you. I can't help but feel like there's something deeper going on, something you're carrying, he said, vulnerability spilling from him into the air. Her smile faded completely, a shadow crossing her face. You're sweet, but it's just been a long road. Nights like this, they help, but they're fleeting. Jason swallowed hard, his gut twisting at the thought of her pain. You said moments like this distract you. But isn't it time to be honest about what's really on your mind? Whatever you're going through, you can share it with me. Mrs. Johnson shook her head slightly, her resolve faltering. I appreciate that, I really do, but sometimes it's easier to let people think everything is fine.
Why?
Jason pressed gently, his voice low. If you can't lean on others, what is the point of being part of a community? She hesitated, her eyes darting away as if searching for the right words. Because sharing hurts. And I'm exhausted trying to lift everyone's spirits when all I feel is Jason's step closer, reducing the distance between their hearts. When all you feel is what? You can trust me. A single tear escaped, rolling down her cheek. When all I feel is lost. At that moment, something inside Jason cracked open. He felt as though he was witnessing a revelation, like a flower blooming in the harshest winter. Lost isn't a bad thing. It means there's still a path to find. Mrs. Johnson took a shaky breath. And what happens when I don't know how to find it? Without thinking, Jason reached out, clasping her hand in his. It was warm and trembling. We'll find it together. Just like we found our way to this party. One step at a time. For the first time that night, the corners of her mouth lifted again, though her eyes still glistened. Thank you. But before she could say anything more, a loud cheer erupted from the crowd just as a group of kids raced by, shrieking with laughter. It shattered the moment, yet something had shifted between them, an unspoken understanding forged. Now was the time to press further, to unravel the layers. Mrs. Johnson let us sit down for a minute. Can you tell me about the journey that led to this moment? As she opened her mouth, Jason felt every heartbeat resonating with tension and hope. What would she reveal? He could feel his own heart racing, ready for whatever truth lay beneath the laughter, just waiting to come to light. But then, suddenly, Kyle sauntered over, eyes narrowing as he caught sight of their exchange. What is going on here? You're not actually going to believe her, are you? That one question hung in the air as uncertainty clouded the moment. What truth would Mrs. Johnson share? Was Jason ready for it? The words hung heavy, like an oppressive cloud. Jason turned to face Kyle, feeling a knot tighten in his stomach.
What are you talking about?
He shot back, trying to keep his frustration in check. Kyle's posture shifted slightly, more defensive than confrontational now. I just mean you can't trust every sad-faced man. People put on masks. What's so special about her story? His tone was condescending, but beneath it lay a hint of concern. Maybe it's not about believing her, Jason replied, his voice rising in pitch. Maybe it's about listening and understanding what she is going through. He could feel Mrs. Johnson's hand slip slightly from his as the tension narrowed into an uncomfortable space. Kyle was acting like a brick wall, and Jason was caught between wanting to protect Mrs. Johnson and confronting his friend. Yeah, and maybe she just wants sympathy, Kyle tossed back, the edge in his voice sharp. We all have our problems. Why are we wasting time on hers? Mrs. Johnson's gaze flickered between the two, confusion written across her face. Jason took a breath to steady himself and turned back to her, wanting to create a safe space rather than continue to engage with Kyle's venom. It's okay, he said softly. You don't have to say anything if you're not ready. But the brief flicker of hope in her eyes dimmed. I didn't mean to intrude, she murmured, as if the words were pulled from her against her will. No, Mrs. Johnson, Jason interjected quickly. You're not intruding. I care about what you have to say. I don't do well with vulnerability, she said, her voice trembling. This was a moment of truth, and those had become so rare lately. Neither do I, Jason admitted, feeling the weight of his own struggles leap to the surface. But avoiding it doesn't make it disappear. Lily's laughter echoed nearby. Jessica brought another plate of burgers to the picnic table. The contrast was stark against the unfolding moment between him and Mrs. Johnson. But then Jason caught something in Kyle's expression, a softening that hinted at understanding or regret. Look, he said, rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly, I get it. We all fight our battles. Mrs. Johnson looked at Kyle, uncertainty in her eyes. You don't have to put on a show for me. I'm just here to support my son, and I didn't want to drag anyone down with my problems. Jason stepped closer to Mrs. Johnson, his concern evident. You're not dragging us down. You're giving us a glimpse of what real struggle looks like. And that's important. That realization hung in the air, filling the charged atmosphere like a fragile thread connecting all of them in that moment. But what happens when facing that struggle only seems to create more division? Kyle pondered, vulnerability slipping through his doubt. What about our own issues? At that moment, Jason could see a fragile bridge forming a connection amid the chaos of misunderstandings and assumptions. He turned back to Mrs. Johnson. What would help you right now? She hesitated, her eyes glistening with tears again. Maybe just feeling like I'm not alone, even if it's just for tonight. Jason nodded, feeling the weight of her words settle deep within him. You won't be alone. We're all here trying to figure it out, together. Kyle's face loosened, even if he was still apprehensive.
Right.
Yeah, we're all trying to get through our things. Just as Jason felt a flicker of hope, another cheer erupted from the party. But Kyle rolled his eyes, crossing his arms in frustration. What is this even going to accomplish? With a sudden push, Jason faced him. It's about understanding the power of support. This night isn't just about parties. It's about people. Everyone here is human. I guess, Kyle replied, looking at Mrs. Johnson, who was brushing away fresh tears. The shift in the air felt electric, a buoyant pulse of connection. Just as Mrs. Johnson opened her mouth to speak, a shrill whistle cut through the chatter. Jason's breath caught as he saw a commotion near the makeshift stage.
What now?
He wondered aloud, anticipation bubbling above the emotions just shared. Lily's excited shout reverberated next. Look, they're bringing out a surprise. The room turned, eyes wide. Curiosity replaced their heaviness for just a moment, but Jason felt a knot forming again. What new revelation would come their way? And would it lead them all to something they needed? The surprise resonated through the crowd like a spark, igniting joy and curiosity. Jason felt the tense atmosphere ease slightly as all eyes shifted toward the stage. A brightly colored banner was unfurled, and a group of kids came running, their faces lit with excitement. At their center was a clown, big red shoes, and a wild wig bobbing cheerfully as he tossed bright balloons into the air. Laughter rose from the guests, cutting through the heaviness that lingered just moments before. Jason could see Lily bouncing on her feet, her cheeks flushed with delight. Look at him, Jason. Isn't he funny? She squealed, pointing to the entertainer who was juggling flaming torches that danced dangerously close to his colorful outfit. A reluctant smile broke through Kyle's guarded expression, and even Mrs. Johnson let out a small, surprised laugh that felt like sunshine breaking a stormy cloud. Jason couldn't help but mirror their reactions. Humor has a way of bringing people together, he thought, even when walls felt insurmountable. As the clown continued his act, cracking jokes and engaging the audience, Jason felt the pull of something deeper. It was a reminder that beneath every mask, every struggle, lay a spark of humanity. Teaching moments like this were treasures, the kind that could remind them all of their shared experiences in spite of their differences. But just as laughter rippled through the crowd, a sudden scream pierced the joviality. A boy, no older than 5, had tripped and landed hard on the ground, sending shockwaves of concern through the group. In an instant, laughter turned to horror as parents rushed to the scene. Jason's heart raced as he spotted Mrs. Johnson's face pale, concern etching deeper lines into her expression. He's going to be all right? Kyle's uncertainty resurfaced, breaking into Jason's thoughts as they both moved toward the boy. Let us see, Jason replied, quickening his pace. Stay close. The little boy lay on the ground, his knees scraped and tears streaming down his face, large and round like a water balloon ready to burst. But what shocked Jason even more was what he saw next surrounding the child, an array of snacks scattered across the grass, some uneaten, a few partially broken. A half-eaten lollipop was stuck to the heel of the boy's shoe. Come here, buddy, I've got you. Jason knelt beside him, reaching out. The boy's whimper turned into a sob. Look at me. He spoke softly, seeking eye contact. The child blinked through tears, trying to focus. You're going to be okay. Can I see your knee? While Jason examined the scrape, he caught a glimpse of Mrs. Johnson standing near, her worry deepening as she watched the child's fear transform into panic. It was contagious, he felt it tug at his own heartstrings. He turned slightly, catching Kyle's cautious expression, a mix of concern and frustration. Just breathe, man, Jason said, his voice steady but firm. We're here. Let us help them out. Right, Kyle said, nodding as he gathered some napkins from the table. He approached the boy, the fear in his own eyes slowly beginning to soften. Hey, little dude, do you want to help me pick up the candy first? Maybe distract you. The boy's sobbing hushed slightly at the mention of candy, tears still trickling down his cheeks. It was a small bridge back to comfort. As they began to pick up the fallen treats and clean the mess, a sense of collaboration took shape, unexpected and warm. With every piece of candy they reclaimed, Jason felt a surge of hope brewing inside him. Maybe this was what it meant to be a community, to come together not just in joy, but in challenge. As the boys' tears subsided, Jason exchanged a glance with Mrs. Johnson. In that moment, she seemed to understand that support wasn't about solving everything. Sometimes it was simply about showing up, offering kindness when it was most needed. But just as the atmosphere shifted back towards warmth, a loud cry came from the clown's stage. "Wait until you see what we've just found," he exclaimed, waving a mysterious wrapped object that looked far too tentative to be part of the entertainment. Jason's heart raced again. What was happening now? What was the clown about to reveal? Would this moment create more chaos or connection? He felt the tension coil tightly within him as anticipation bubbled. The clown on stage grinned widely, his eyes sparkling with mischief as he held up the mysterious wrapped object. The crowd instinctively leaned in, curiosity peaking like pinballs bouncing around. Jason couldn't help but feel a knot tighten in his stomach. What could it be? Is it a magic trick? Lily whispered, eyes wide with anticipation. "Looks more like a surprise," Kyle replied, his tone filled with both excitement and caution, glancing back at the fallen boy, who was now dusting himself off with a tentative smile. Moments later, the clown carefully peeled away the wrapping, revealing a glimmering object inside. As the shimmering light caught the sun, gasps erupted around the gathering crowd. It was a small, ornate box, intricately carved and seemingly ancient. The clown held it aloft triumphantly. "What's in there?" Someone called from the audience, a mix of nervousness and intrigue in their voice. The clown's smile widened, a dramatic silence falling over the crowd like a curtain. "Today, my friends, we've been given a very special treasure. Let us find out what's inside together." Jason felt a flicker of disbelief surge within him. A treasure? In the middle of a birthday party? Yet there was something almost magical in the way the clown presented it. The atmosphere shifted once more, children scrambling on tiptoes to catch a glimpse of the unfolding mystery. "I want to see," Lily shouted, bouncing eagerly, her eyes glinting with innocent wonder. Jason shared a glance with Kyle, both boys exchanging a knowing look. This could end in hilarity or chaos, depending on how the clown chose to proceed. With the crowd buzzing, the clown slowly opened the box. Inside, a flurry of colorful confetti erupted, falling like rain in vibrant shades of blue, pink, and yellow. But that wasn't all. As if by grand illusion, a cascade of tiny toys followed, miniature cars, rubber ducks, and an assortment of trinkets, each one a direct invitation to joy. "Collect them, my friends. These treasures are yours," he bellowed, urging the audience to jump in. The children scrambled forward, laughter breaking out as they blissfully collected the surprises. Jason watched as the little boy from earlier darted forward, completely ignited by the thrill of new excitement. The earlier panic faded into oblivion, replaced by giggles and cheers. It felt heartwarming to see everyone dive into this moment of delight, their worries now ghosts buried beneath layers of joy. Even Mrs. Johnson, who had been so tense just moments ago, began to smile as her own children laughed and cheered. It was infectious, and Jason found himself letting go, joining in the exhilaration. But just when the vibe shifted fully into celebration, Jason noticed something out of place. The clown had reached into the box again, pulling out a larger, more ornate object this time, what appeared to be a golden key. Its surface gleamed ominously under the sun. "Behold!" the clown shouted, the crowds quieting once more. "This is the key to something big. Who wants to find out where it fits?" Murmurs swirled through the guests. What could this possibly mean? Was this part of the clown's act, or had they stumbled onto something truly extraordinary? Jason felt that familiar knot of curiosity twist in his belly. Could this be another layer in the unexpected surprises of the day? He exchanged a nervous glance with Kyle. What if the key led to something that changed the party, or even the neighborhood forever? As the clown began to taunt the crowd with riddles connected to the key, Jason's thoughts raced. What was at stake now? What secrets could lie behind the door this key might unlock? Would this be the moment that redefined their afternoon, Or would it spell a new adventure upon which they would embark? The excitement crackled in Jason's veins. He yearned to uncover the mystery, to unveil the unknown. But would they be ready for what was about to unfold? As laughter danced in the air, Jason felt a whirlwind of anticipation and hope. The clown, having captured the audience, now held the key high, teasing them with possibilities. Every pair of eyes, children, adults, skeptics, were riveted, caught in the thread of connection that had blossomed throughout the evening. "What's the key to?" someone shouted from the back, breaking through the buzz of excitement.
Ah,
The clown exclaimed, "That's the fun part. This key can unlock a door to adventure, to new friendships, and perhaps a hidden treasure waiting right across our small town." A ripple of curiosity flowed through the crowd, igniting children's imaginations. Laughter faded to hushed whispers, excitement crackling like electricity. The promise of discovery felt palpable. "Can you lead us?" Lily piped up, her small fist clenched in determination, a champion of hope. The clown grinned, sensing their eagerness. "I will, but only if you promise to share in the joy." Jason glanced around, his heart swelling as he observed the shift in energy. People who had arrived uncertain, cloistered by doubts, were now wide-eyed kids again, embracing the magic of spontaneity. They were all in this together, minds as open as the skies above. He stepped forward, finally feeling a bold resolution seep into his bones. "Let us move. Lead the way," he shouted, galvanizing the crowd. With the clown leading, Jason, Kyle, and Mrs. Johnson exchanged knowing glances of tentative excitement, each heart thumping loudly in a rhythm of unity. As they meandered through the backyard, the spirit of community transformed. Tension melted away beneath the warmth of the sun streaking into twilight. They found themselves moving toward the old, weathered shed at the end of Jason's yard, an afterthought, overshadowed by the glamour of his home. "Could it be?" Jason murmured, eyes wide as they approached. The memories of childhood filled him. That shed was once a fortress of imaginations. And now, it seemed promising new life. "Is there really something inside?" Kyle asked, skepticism still hanging on his words. "Only one way to find out," Jason replied, filled with a sense of purpose. He motioned for the clown to step ahead and grabbed the key from his hand. "Let us see what magic awaits us." The screen door creaked ominously when Jason turned the key, the tension in the air humming with possibility. Slowly, the door swung open, revealing a treasure trove of forgotten items, old decorations, dust-covered toys, and numerous wooden crates labeled with the names of families who used to live in the neighborhood, tokens of lives intertwined.
oh wow.
Lily shouted, her eyes sparkling. "Look at all this stuff." Around them, neighbors peered in, faces ignited with wonder. Jason felt emotions swell within him. This could be more than a treasure. It could spark stories, connections, and heal the rifts that had divided them. From somewhere in the back, Mrs. Johnson stepped forward. "This is my family's past," she whispered in disbelief. "We used to play here every summer." Joy and sorrow mixed seamlessly in her voice, resonating with the hearts of those nearby. In that moment, Jason understood. This was the gift they had just unlocked, a narrative that intertwined their lives, beckoning them to share and connect deeply. "Let us clean it out," Jason exclaimed, his enthusiasm infectious. "We could turn this place into a community center, a space where we can gather, share stories, help each other." A ripple of excitement spread through the crowd. Kyle, eyes brightening, chimed in, "And I can set up a neighborhood game night. Who wouldn't want to come back to childhood and reconnect?" People began to pour in, eager to sift through faded memories, forging plans wrought from laughter and compassion. The atmosphere transformed, alive with camaraderie as they reminisced over relics like photos that held shared histories, merging their lives into a vibrant tapestry of belonging. Jason watched as Mrs. Johnson uncovered a weathered box of toys, her heart visibly lifted. Finally, she smiled, gratitude lining her features. "Perhaps we can find a way to not only revive old memories but create new ones together," she said softly. And just like that, they all fell into a rhythm. Neighbors began sharing laughter, stories spiraling into the night, creating bonds once thought lost to time. In that moment, Jason realized that they had defeated the barriers of wealth that once separated them. Empathy had truly risen above everything else, transforming the afternoon into a celebration, igniting a renewed sense of community spirit. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Jason felt a weight lift. They weren't just neighbors anymore. They had become a family. And behind every smile, every laugh, was a dedication to support one another, a promise to ensure no one felt lost again. But as the crowd buzzed with ideas, Jason remembered the words of the clown. Let us get started. The adventure had only just come to life. Couldn't he wait to see what the next chapter would hold? Would they keep the spirit alive? Would they honor the connections they had forged? In every heart, a spark ignited a commitment to uplift each other, one treasure at a time. Now was the time to celebrate. Now was the moment for inspired action. They had a chance to rebuild. Would they let it slip away? It was now, with hearts wide open, that they could truly become a family forged not just in shared laughter but in understanding, growth, and love. So, dear viewers, don't wait. This is your time to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that uplift and inspire. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because your support makes all the difference. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this powerful conclusion. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to spread this message of hope and community. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these vital actions. Let us keep this family of stories growing.